Disclaimer. At Two Addicts and a Moron, we discuss personal stories of addiction with the intention of being educational, relatable, and inspirational. The views and experiences shared are those of individuals involved, are not meant to glorify or condone any illegal or harmful behavior. This content is for educational purposes only and is not intended as professional advice. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, we strongly encourage you seek help from a qualified professional or support service.
So you want to hear a funny story? So my nephew, he hasn't worked in like a month. And like 2 months ago, he met this guy at the gas station, and the guy was telling him, "Hey, I got a concrete company. If you ever want to lay concrete with me, right?" So he's like, "All right, let me get your number, right?" He's like thinking, "I'm not working outside. That's fucking a lot of hot weather, blah blah blah." So he went like a month without working. He's like, "Fuck, I need a job." So he texts this dude the other night. He says, "Hey, I met you at the gas station. I know you have a concrete. I was wondering if you still need help laying concrete." And the guy says, "Yeah, send me a picture so it will remind me of who you were, right?" So my nephew sends a selfie of himself to the dude, and the dude's response back was, "Handsome, are you free tonight?" And he sent a picture back of himself, like a 70-year-old dude trying to fuck my nephew.
Oh my Lord!
Fuck, dude.
He never had a concrete company. He was just trying to fuck my nephew.
Wow, that's fucked
I was like,
up.
I said, "So did you at least? I mean, you need a job right now. Did you at least ask like, hey, what are you paying? I mean, what are we talking about here? A little sucking dick, or what are we talking about? You know, how much you paying? Get a finger in the old asshole?"
That's nuts.
Bro.
I would have went and found that guy and heard that. Yeah,
That's fucking hilarious. Like that.
Euthanize that motherfucker.
Euthanize him.
That's awesome.
Euthanize that motherfucker.
Yeah, so now my nephew's got a job.
That's great. That is great.
No longer is he unemployed.
20's 20.
Hey, listen. Anything that works, right?
Yeah.
Pay the bills.
Hey.
All right, we
All right,
ready?
you boys ready?
Yeah, we ready.
ready.
Put your phone away, man.
I
Let's do
had
it.
to put it on silent.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's talk. Let's talk.
Let's talk about it.
It's time to talk about it. I want to start a podcast called "Let's Talk About It."
Fuck yeah,
Where like
dude.
throughout my social media adventure, I get a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to. They have a problem with me going to the gym.
Yeah.
They got a problem with me wearing nice sneakers. Everything is like, forget the fact that he has 40 dogs underneath his care that have all came from, rock bottom and they're all smiling and happy.
Yeah.
Let's judge that asshole because he looks good. He takes care of himself.
Yeah,
Fucking
it's
crazy.
fucking insane.
To the point that I stopped posting my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm out here. I just post, like, I didn't even want to post that I'm out here. I fund my place. I got to, like, it's $5 Friday, and they're like, "You don't need that money. He's in Texas." I'm in Texas. You know what I'm saying? I'm not paying for nothing.
Yeah.
I paid for food, like me and my brother. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not on vacation.
Yeah.
I'm working my mission.
Yeah, dude.
About to talk to two addicts and a moron.
You
No.
are talking to two addicts.
Yeah,
anymore,
that's what I'm
brother.
saying. That's what we
Yeah,
do.
that's-
But if I wasn't here, I wouldn't be talking to you, right?
Yeah, but that's right.
So, social media is fucking crazy.
Well, look, dude, we couldn't be more honored to have you here.
I appreciate it.
I mean, we've been talking to you for a little bit, and your brother's our brother.
Yes.
And any brother of our brother is our brother.
So we family.
Family, we're all family.
By
in here.
addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all ended up in this room because we're all fucked up.
Yeah. I'm the moron. I'm not an addict, but I'm no less fucked up.
all right.
It happens.
You may be an addict, just not in recovery yet.
Yeah, maybe.
I didn't think that I was an addict until I figured
it's
it
very
out.
fair. Yeah, that's very fair. This thing has made me work through shit that I would have never imagined that I would have done before I did it. And I say it all the time, but I'm not an addict, or I don't identify as one anyway.
Not yet.
Not yet. But I do have a lot of addict tendencies.
So you're an addict.
So yeah,
You're just not an addict in recovery.
And
addiction is not only drug addiction.
Yeah.
There's somebody in the world right now like eating crayon.
Yeah.
And thinking that it's normal. You know what I'm saying? Like, addiction is addiction.
Eating
It's that
packs
we
of sugar.
choose
Yeah.
drug addiction because it numbs us.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that don't numb you unless it's a drug or alcohol.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Kobe Bryant. He was an addict, just a different kind of addict.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that guy didn't have an addiction to what he did?
Correct.
Absolutely he did.
I think that anybody who's successful is an addict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you're not going to be successful if you're not addicted to what you do.
That's true.
You know, they say like love what you do and you never work a day in your life.
Yep.
You know, you put drugs and alcohol on top of that.
Yeah.
You know, you love what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're never working a day in your life. You're just honestly, you're not even living.
Yeah.
You're just existing.
Yeah.
You're existing through alcohol and
Just making it
drugs.
through the day.
That's it. It's all a facade. You see these walls that we're sitting in?
Yeah.
That's a facade.
Yeah.
Take them down. What do you have? You have a house.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, what an intro.
Yeah.
And
let's do it.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
you are working with two things that are near and dear to my heart. Addicts and Pitbulls.
Yes.
And I own a Pitbull.
Okay.
And I've told this story before, but it's like I'll walk him down the street, and he's the most lovable, sweet, good-hearted boy I've ever been around. Literally saved my life. But when I walk him down the street in my neighborhood, people are clearing off the sidewalks when I'm walking them through, you know. And to me, it's like you're not even giving them a chance. You're not even giving them a shot. And I witnessed that with my boy Mike, you know, going through addiction, not giving him a chance. So the parallels when we started talking and going back and forth with each other, it's near and dear to my heart, not just for one thing, but for the other. So I appreciate that.
Well, I think that you understand it a little bit more because you experienced it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that don't experience the stigma that pitbulls and addicts walk around with. You know, the moment that somebody sees a pitbull, they think that pitbull is going to rip them apart.
Yeah.
The moment that a man or a woman is open about them being in recovery, they're a junkie, and it's just a matter of time. You know, we are the two misunderstood breeds in the world.
Yeah.
You know, we are judged and labeled for people's, you know, actions. And, you know, what I could tell you is that, like, my whole life, I never felt accepted and loved for who I was because I didn't accept and love myself. When I did enter this world of recovery, it was still an uphill battle. I still battle to this day. You know, every day, any man or woman that's in recovery, they could tell you, like, you know, we have to literally go to war every day and hope to make it home. You know, we are always one bad choice away from ruining our lives. All it takes is one phone call to ruin our lives.
Life is fragile, brother.
Correct. And a pit bull, all it takes is one moron to disrespect that pit bull to get the action that the pit bull is going to give.
Right.
And the action's going to be to fight or flight. Most of the time, if they don't know you, they're going to bite you.
Right.
And there's a reason. And I tell people, like, you know, like, pit bulls and addicts started because when I first got sober after 13 years of drug addiction. But let me just tell you where it stems from, because we could talk about pit bulls and addicts, but there's a story behind this.
Yeah. So
Right? And
let's
it's
start.
It's a story that may not resonate with a lot of people, because a lot of people may not have been in the seat that I was in when it happened to me. But what I've noticed is that there's just way too many people that are sitting behind a closed door in self-doubt and self-hate. And nowadays, social media has become a cesspool of negativity and doubt and hate and judgment. And meanwhile, people are not looking in the mirror and saying, well, you know, maybe I should change my ways. Maybe I need to take a different approach at something. Maybe I need to accept the fact that I have a problem and accept the fact that I'm the only one that can make it out. Because we make choices every day. I could sit here and I could tell everybody exactly what to do to get sober. If they don't do it, they're not going to get sober. I could tell everybody how to work with a dog that has been defeated by humans to make that dog accept you. But if you don't do what I tell you to do, you're not going to get the results that I get. So my addiction stems from being mentally abused by a dentist at 11 years old. At 11 years old, you know, hereditary, genetically, I don't have good teeth. So, you know, I had cavities and stuff, and I went in and they did x-rays, and, you know, back in the day, it was a little bit different. You know, my parents just dropped us off at the dentist and went back to work and stuff. And I remember, like, I got my exam, and then he came into this, like, dark room. There was no LED lighting. It was a darker room, and I was just embarrassed. Like, you know, here I am. I got, you know, somebody's looking at my teeth, and I'm embarrassed. And, you know, 11 years old, and this dentist slammed his hand on the table, and he told me that, you know, screamed, "You'll have no teeth in your mouth by the age of 30. And to some people, that's like, well, how, like, why? That's just words. It didn't, you know. Well, 11 years old, I already have an insecurity, and I already have self-doubt and self-hate, and I'm living in pain and embarrassment as a little kid and don't know who I am, you know. So when I left that office, I felt hopeless and worthless.
Yeah.
And what I did was I found my coping, what is it, mechanism? No, my coping...
Vehicle
Yeah,
mechanism.
like just the way that I coped with the way that I felt was through hockey.
Okay.
Right? So, I never spoke about it. I was very, very quiet about it. I suffered in silence up until 33 years old is when I came forth and I started to, fix myself, because if I didn't fix myself, I wouldn't be here today to sit with you guys. But, just feeling hopeless and worthless at such an early age, I found ways to cope with it. And coping with it, I found hockey. So hockey was like my drug of choice,
Yeah.
I would literally like wake up, go to school, come home, do my homework. Most of the time I didn't do my homework. I told my parents the homework was done.
Sure.
But, I just wanted to get into where I felt safe, so I would put on my skates or I would go to the rink or whatever it was. I was always playing hockey. And then I was a punk and, I went on a tournament up to Lake Placid and we were supposed to be in our room at 9 o'clock and I wound up coming in like 11:30, 12 o'clock drunk. We were playing CeeLo and I was winning. So I was taking everybody's money, and I don't know if you guys know about gambling, but, I'm living through like self-pain and I hate everything. And all of a sudden I start to win. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I'm not going up there. Like I make the game tomorrow, but I'm going to take everybody's money and this makes me feel good, Make a long story short, they sat me down for the game. When we came back to Staten Island, he wanted to sit me down again and I didn't like that. So I took my skate off and I tried to throw it at his neck.
Fuck.
So then I was thrown off my team, and that's when I started to drink on the weekends.
How old were you?
I was in 10th grade.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So like 15, 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the crazy part about me is that I was raised by a narcotics detective.
Whoa.
Yeah. My father was like real deal. He would come home with the surveillance vans. I used to go into the office with him and see it all happening, the wiretaps and the detectives working behind the scene.
And you were in New York.
And my father used to preach to me about, what that drug addict becomes. Like I knew what was going to happen to me, but I just never thought that I would let it happen to me.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like I was raised different. I'm not going to become a drug addict.
Yeah.
I can't become a drug addict.
Everybody
But at that
does.
time, I didn't know what I was doing to myself. And what I was doing to myself was I was digging myself deeper and deeper into a hole that when I was now stripped of my happiness, which was hockey, I went and I found happiness in alcohol. Now, I've drank before, but it was the weekends, Friday, Saturday nights, were just a total blackout. We would drink in this little field right next to a school, right down the church. We had guys in delis that would sell it to us through the back door. And, it made me feel like I was okay. It accepted me for who I was.
And what were you buying at the time?
Alcohol.
Alcohol.
Only
okay,
alcohol.
Not
Yeah,
drugs.
because like I said, I was raised by a narcotics detective. I was around it. I seen it. I remember I used to go to school with this little green book with like poppy seeds on the front and there's like all the details of the drugs. Like it wasn't like, what would happen to you, but just the details about the drugs. Mm-hmm. Everything from heroin to mescaline to dust to meth to cocaine to crack, everything. So I never thought that I thought that I would eventually become like my father, like I was raised, my grandfather was a Bronze Stars general. My father was a community man, a detective. I was raised by men. Also, I was raised by gangsters in Little Italy. So I always gravitated towards men that truly were like family men and like, men that wanted the best for everybody around them.
Right.
Like growing up in New York, you had good guys and you had bad guys. But I never judged a man if he was good or he was bad. It doesn't matter if he was a gangster or if he was a cop. If they treated me and accepted me for who I am, I felt comfortable. You got to remember something. I was never comfortable in my own skin. Mm-hmm. So when I used to go in those places and they would accept me, I felt like I was part of something.
Yeah.
Right? So, basically when I got thrown off my team and I started drinking alcohol, it just made me feel like I was okay. Continued to drink. And I said I would never become a drug addict. I actually used to go up to my friend's college and there would be these kids and they would be like, trying to bite their ear. And I'm drunk, right? Uh-huh. I'm drunk. And I would literally call them out and abuse them. Like, look at you. Like, how disgusting are you, you drug addict? Get out of here, you drug addict. I was 17, 18 years old. And then 21 years old, I was down the Jersey Shore with the wrong people. Somebody had, you want to bump? And instead of saying I never did it, I did it. Mm-hmm. And that was the moment I just felt like this superpower come inside of me. and it made me feel like I was great. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then I realized that I could drink more on it, right? So it all started off was one bag a weekend. I'd go up to the Jersey Shore, do a couple of key bumps, you know. And fast forward 13 years, I'm ripping 50 bags the minute I wake up. You know, I'm hiding cocaine underneath my placemat in my bathroom so that in the middle of the night when I'm going to the bathroom, I could do a bump. You know, it just became my life, and it made me feel like I couldn't live without it. You know, it became part of me.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of good things that I'm proud of. I'm proud of the fact that, you know, through 13 years of drug addiction, I never robbed nothing. I never stole nothing. I never sold anything to support my habit. You know, if I needed something, I borrowed money, you know, and I paid it back. So like being raised by, you know, the men that I was raised, I was raised with morals and respect. So I'm super thankful that I never let that go, because if I let that go back in the day, I would never be sitting here today.
Yeah.
You know, I would be locked up. I would be dead. You know, like streets are real. You know, drug addiction is real. Like, you know, that lifestyle, that fast lifestyle is real. And maybe I wouldn't be killed by, you know, like another human, but like I could have killed myself. Like I drank and drove every day of my life. There's days that I got home, I didn't know how I got home, literally questioning myself like, yo, what bridge did I take home? Like it wasn't even like, it wasn't normal. You know, like I wasn't normal. And I was literally suffering in silence, and nobody knew about it. People knew that I partied. People knew that I drank here and there. But I was my own boss. So therefore, you know, people weren't all over me. I didn't have to answer to nobody. So cocaine became part of my daily routine, where I woke up and I would drink to sniff and sniff to drink. And it got to the point where, I was sniffing cocaine at my best friend's memorial mass. My best friend, my brother, Armin, I went to his mass and sitting there, and most people would be remembering and, taking a moment. Like, even if you're an addict, like you're in church, like take a moment to just reflect and understand, like, life is good, life is beautiful, but I was so fucked up that I couldn't even sit there and reflect on life. I couldn't even sit there and remember my brother.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was in the bathroom sniffing blow in
I've
church.
done that before. I've had friends that die from addiction. And I'll go to, like, if you killed one of my friends, I'm never going to hang out with you. I'm going to be looking for you. Right?
Correct.
But I've had friends die from addiction, and I'll go to their fucking service, and in the bathroom, I'm fucking using the shit that they died from.
Correct.
Right? And not even thinking twice about it.
The crazy part is I remember when I got the phone call. I was working on 17th Street. I got a phone call from his cousin Jamie, and as soon as I seen her name come up, I knew it.
You knew
and
it.
I felt it. And my whole body dropped. I went to my knees. And I said, what's up? And she said, he's gone. It's just a crazy feeling that goes through me, is because, like, at that moment when I went to my knees, I wasn't as bad as I was. It was more of just like a weekend thing, But I went to my knees and I just realized, like, yo, this kid's dead. And we've all spoke about his addiction and what he was doing. So even though I lost a brother, I also did learn some things at that moment. And the moment that I realized that my best friend and my brother was dead, I realized that he didn't die from just using cocaine. So he was taking Xanax to go to sleep, drinking, sniffing, taking Xanax to go to sleep. And that became his life. You know what I'm saying? So, being raised and being in the clubs and being out and seeing people, because, like, cocaine, you're still aware of things. Like, even though if I wasn't able to speak, I could still observe. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things that my father raised me to do was always to show up, no matter what. Whether they're right or they're wrong, if they're part of you, you show up no matter what. So I always said to myself, like, no matter how fucked up I am, if I get a phone call and I got to run for my family, my friends, I have to be able to show up. I don't got to talk as long as I'm there. So, I'm just super thankful that seeing and observing everybody else, like, going into K-holes and not being able to, like, just conduct themselves because of a pill or a powder, whatever it was, I just said that I never want to be that person. You know what I'm saying? And I stuck by that. So I never did a pill. I never did any other drug besides cocaine. And it's nothing to be proud of, but it's everything to be proud of, because if I wouldn't be alive today.
Yeah.
The type of addict that I was, I was all in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it got to the point, my addiction, it got to the point where, I would literally be buying 5 bags at a time, 550 bags at a time, 5 for 200 from 4 or 5 different dealers. Because the dealers that I dealt with wouldn't deal me the amount of drugs that I was doing a day. They weren't trying to kill their customers. They were working men. They just knew that they could make money off it. And if you're going to buy it from somebody, you may as well buy it from somebody that, not's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Some drug dealers will serve you to your deathbed and then serve you in your deathbed.
Yeah.
Like I would never surround myself with people. So I was always like, like aware of who I surrounded myself with. And I never wanted to be the person that I was, but I was stuck in something.
Yeah.
And the pain. And as I got older, the pain got worse. And, as men, we were raised to just shut up and make it happen.
Yeah.
There's no reason to cry about things. There's no reason to,
Absolutely.
just shut up and just fucking make it happen. No matter what needs to be done, you need to make it happen. And I lived by that.
Yeah.
And I never came forth about anything until I just got to the point where I felt completely numb inside. I was empty. I was heartless. I had no emotions. That I didn't feel like life was I wasn't living. I was existing in pain. And, I would get out of the shower and I would look at myself with disgust. And then I started to not being able to accept myself really started to weigh on me to the point that I would get out of the shower and put a sweatshirt right on so I didn't have to see myself in the mirror. So I ran for a long, long time. And then it got to the point where near death, driving over the bridge every morning, I contemplated jumping off the bridge. I contemplated just all this crazy shit of I didn't want to be this person, but I also didn't know no better.
Yeah.
And back in the day, social media wasn't as like it is now. I have people that contact me and I'm like, listen, I'm here for you. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I do what I do today is because I am the man that I needed when I was at my lowest. I accept you for who you are.
Yeah.
Let's build who you could become. We're all different. Today I'm a man that people look at and like, wow, he changed his life around. He's a good dude, and I'm not no better than anybody else. But I use my past so I could inspire people that you don't got to sit through the pain of an addict because I'm one of millions. There's millions of addicts. Most of us just suffer in silence. We don't do what we're supposed to do. And most of us end up in a grave.
Don't ask for help.
We don't ask for help.
Yeah.
So understanding that, even as an addict, towards the end of it, I understood that, shit ain't going to change itself. Mm-hmm. As long as I'm sniffing, the cocaine's going to go up my nose. I'm sniffing it. I'm putting it to my nose. It's the choices that we make that determine the life that we live. You know what I'm saying? So after all of that, 13 years of ruining everything, feeling hopeless and worthless my whole life, I just got to the point that if I didn't make the change that I was going to be dead. And I knew it. I was already dead inside. I was just a walking zombie. But the crazy part is that I was able to still withhold a construction company to make money. So I would show up every day. I actually had my dealers work for me. So I didn't have to pay for coke every day. On Friday was a paycheck and a blow check. So, I would, at the end of the week, I'm giving thousands of dollars for cocaine that, I didn't see it as a problem. I just thought that I was working to support a habit,
Right.
Got the best of me. I wasn't supposed to be this guy. No gangsters would approve this. My father wouldn't approve this. This is not a way of being a man. I was a broken little boy just making excuses for everything. It got to the point that if I didn't make the change and do what I did, I was going to be dead. And being raised by a narcotics detective, I just always I just felt embarrassed and I felt like I was letting my father down and I wasn't raised to be the man that I have become, but the only way to change it is to actually fucking change it instead of doing it. So I said to myself on March 26th, 2016, if I make it home tonight, it's the last night, right? And I had no other choice but to do it myself because I don't think that rehabs are set up properly. I think that the systems are broken. What you need to realize is that, private rehabs are a lot different. And nowadays, I see it because I actually work beside it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Frank and, I have people in my life that have shown me that recovery and rehab is possible with the right people, but the states, the state rehabs, they're not setting the addicts up for success, right? So I refused to go to a typical rehab. And then I started to like search for like programs, and the programs were unaffordable. I can't afford 50,000, 60,000.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, my father wasn't a wealthy man. I had no money. I was an addict with, you know, like this hope, this doubt in my mind that I'm just not going to be able to do it. Hopeless.
Well, I love the fact that you're talking about that, man, because there's so many ways to do it.
Correct.
Right? I always describe, like, just from being an observer of people who are addicts who come into this room, it's like I've once used this, but it's a maze, right? Like you enter that maze of addiction, and I imagine it's big cornrows and shit, you know, and everybody takes off down their different paths, right? But there's only one way out of that motherfucker, right? And some people get lost in it, and they'll never find their way out.
Yeah.
You know, and the people who do find their way out, you know. So it's
I've been involved in this recovery for now. March 26th will be 9 years, right? I've been open since day one about who I was and who I'm gonna be. On March 26, 2016, if you go back on the calendar, it's Easter Sunday.
okay.
Okay, so I rose on Easter Sunday.
Wow.
Okay, I was in an empty house. My fiance or girlfriend at the time picked up and left. She went to go with her family. I told my family that I was just sick. I didn't feel well. And I looked at myself and I said, Mike, you need to do this. I looked in the mirror. I was just like screaming at myself, like, you know, like, you need to fucking do this. Figure it out. So I went on the internet. I found a guy. I typed in sober, and a guy named Austin from Sober Evolution was the only one to answer me.
Okay.
And he told me, he said, Mike, you know, there's different ways to do it. If you don't have insurance and you don't have money, like, you're going to have to do this on your own. There's people that could guide you, but you need to do it, bro. What I recommend is that you find a motivational speech that, you know, touches you and that you could understand. And then you just start, you know, every day you have to put the effort into it. So I was like, all right, you know, I never listened to motivation in my life. And I typed in, you know, motivation. And the first one was like this little geeky guy and, like, you know, glasses, like this dweeb. I'm like, this fucking guy ain't gonna inspire me. Second one was like a female. And then the third one was legacy, right? It was this big jack that looked like 50 Cent, chiseled out black guy. And I'm like, this fucking one.
Yeah.
Right? It's Legacy by William King Hollis. William King Hollis is actually a man in my life today. I actually reached out to him and thanked him for saving my life. Because the words that are in that speech, if you listen to that speech, are the words that this is my life today.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says, one of them says, like, you know, like, I'm going to take drug dealers and make them community leaders.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a man of my community.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So after accepting that, like, you know, just sitting in complete, and again, the detox was, you know, it was horrible, but I also wanted it.
Yeah.
I was over it. 13 years, I never was myself. I never accepted myself. To be honest with you, I never gave myself a chance.
Yeah.
Right? So now it's like I'm all out. I told my girl what was going on. Like, I'm in an empty house. It's like, yo, you got to fucking do this or you're going to die. So I started to do it, and motivation truly motivated me to become a better person, right? March 27th, day one of sobriety, I sat with my father on my childhood stoop, and I told my father that I didn't know what I was going to do, but I'm going to go from zero to hero. And my father looked at me and said, Michael, if there's one man in this world that could do it, it's you. He said, whatever you could do, whatever you're going to do, however you're going to do it, I could stand beside you, but I can't do it for you.
Was he always supportive of you?
Yes.
Was he?
Yes. I come, my parents are awesome. Like I said, you know, like, addiction runs in my family. My mother's an alcoholic. She drinks every day of her life to this day. And she's not a drunk. She drinks a couple of beers. But if you talk about addiction, and the reality of it is that there are so many addicts that don't identify as an addict because they think that it's okay. It's not a drug. I think that the worst drug out there is alcohol.
Fuck yeah. We talk
It's
about
like
it all the
you
time.
can literally go anywhere and get alcohol. You know what I'm saying? And alcohol to me is the devil in a bottle. I don't have the devil inside me no more. Like, I'm not making those choices that are putting my life at risk. Listen, at the end of the day, we all gonna die, right? But I'm gonna die because of doing something that I love doing, right? I'm gonna be attacked. I'm gonna be shot going to get a dog. I'm gonna be, like, listen, I rescue abuse and neglect dogs from shitty people.
Yeah.
Right? When you go in there, you post up as a threat. Nowadays, people are not afraid to pull that trigger.
Yeah.
They pull baseball bats. I've had cops come surround me. There's a guy in Brooklyn was like, this 6'5" Puerto Rican. I'm not Puerto Rican. I'm a white guy. He's here. He's trying to take my dog. He's got a gun.
Yeah.
I could walk out of the building because I had something on me. I was going to put it in my truck. It wasn't a gun, but I had protection on me.
Yeah.
And the cops surrounded me. I got guns to my head. Get to your knees, hands up. I had my father's little baton with me, and I had a knife with me. And I told him, I said, listen, I don't know where I'm going. This is why I'm here, and this is what I did. I don't have no gun, but, it's serious out there, you know? And if you really think about it, when you talk about like animals that have been neglected by a human, that's a choice. And if they could do it to that animal that has no voice and that's not able to say, hey, I need help. Somebody help me. This person is abusing me. They just sit there and suffer in silence. And that was me as a kid.
Yeah.
So it's a little different for me.
Yeah.
So if you could do that to that animal, I know you could do it to me. So when I come in, I'm ready for war.
Yeah.
Most of the time people don't want it because I come in with the right energy. I don't want no problems.
Yeah, but you're also a pretty intimidating presence, just physically, brother. Like, I mean, yeah, you're
I took a broken
guy.
boy and built a man.
Yeah,
I built the man that I want to be. I built a man that I want people to know, like, yo, that's a man. That's not a kid who play, like, I don't play victim of my past.
Right.
Like, I'm proud of who I am today.
Yeah, you should
I
be,
represent
brother.
something. I stand for something. I do something that nobody in the world does. There's not one man in the world that could say that they do what I do. And some people say, like, how could you say that? Find me one man that threw his entire life away because he resorted to drugs and alcohol, right? I threw away Carpenters Union. I threw away Local 79. I threw away Longshoremen. I threw away sanitation. Okay? When I got sober, I knew that I had to find something to replace this negative addiction. So I say it all the time, negative addictions can become positive addictions, and I'm living proof.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to get addicted to something else. Like currently today, I'm addicted to inspiring other people, spreading my word, my real story. This is not made up. This is real life shit.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going on social media trying to be something that I'm not. I'm everything that I say I am. Right? I'm real.
Yeah.
Okay? This is me. This is me after all I've been through. Right? I forget about everything that I've been through when I have to. But I live with this burning desire inside of me to just make a change in somebody's life that nobody cares about. Because when I was at my lowest, I felt that nobody cared about me. And even at my highest points, I still sometimes feel that nobody cares about me. But I've accepted the fact that, I have to love myself. And you are exactly what you bring in. So if you're a broken human, you're going to be surrounded by broken people. When you're a changed person and you accept yourself for who you are and you love yourself for who you are and you make all the changes that are necessary, all of a sudden people are going to start gravitating towards you because they want to know, like, yo, how did you do it? Because there's so many people that do suffer, but they're not going to open up their mouth.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to fucking men. I don't want them to know that I sit inside and cry because I missed this or I missed that. Like, there's too many men that suffer in silence. So I want to be open about everything. I want people to understand, like, listen, if Mike could do it, I could do it. Because I'm not no better than anybody else. I did it with no rehab. I just had this drive inside. I could tell you right now that there's no drug addict that wants to be that drug addict. Whether they're active or they're dead. You could go dig up every addict that has lost their life. If you dug them up and were able to have a conversation with them and said, was it worth it? They would say no. I wish that I didn't do that. Life is beautiful. Life is great. But when we're numb to shit and we don't care about anything, we don't care about ourselves, we don't care about our, you got parents that are selling, they sell their children's toys for drugs. You know what I'm saying? You have men and women that are just so lost and caught up in this world of, like just self-doubt and self-hate. And it all stems from within. And most of it is done at home. Because when everybody leaves the house, they put on this facade. And I put that facade on for most of my life. So when I'm going through something, people know I'm going through it.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I got to cry, I'm letting the devil out of me.
Yeah.
Because what I realize is that an idle mind is a devil's playground. That's the devil inside of me. So if I'm so emotional after 42 years, I'll be 42 in May. I'm so emotional about some things. If I'm going to cry, I'm going to let it out, because if I don't let it out, it's going to build up and eventually I'm going to snap.
The dam will bust.
That's it. And when I snap, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I said, we are one choice away from ruining our life or bettering our life. So I made a choice that I don't give a fuck if I shed a tear. I don't give a fuck if I have to sit with my head down. I'll take a knee.
Yeah.
But I'm not going down no more. You'll never catch me on my back.
Yeah.
I'll take a knee. I take time to just reflect. I understand what I have to do to get through it, and then I stand up and I go. And you know what? It's never a loss. I will never lose that life. I've realized that with every loss, there's a lesson. With every lesson comes a blessing, and that blessing could change your life. So I took all of this stuff and I realized, like, hey, I need to find a purpose in life. My purpose used to be building dope shit and getting fucked up. And where did it get me? I was making money, so I was supporting my own habit, but I was nobody. I was a walking dead man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So after telling my father I was going to go from zero to hero, I said I need to find a purpose. I need to replace this. Like I'm not going to heal. I'm not going to change unless I change everything about me. Now, a lot of people say it's always people, places, and things. With me, it's completely different. It was trauma. You know, like 11 years old, I was mentally abused. I lived this life. I doubted myself. I hated myself. I hated everything. I hated everyone. I didn't feel nothing. I was numb. Just didn't want to be this no more. So I knew that in order for me to feel a human, like I was a human, I would have to do what most humans do. And that's why you see men in the gym with their heads down. You see men going out of their way to make sure that their children love them and their children feel appreciated. You see parents being parents. You see, people excelling at their work because they're taking all of that negative addictions and they're changing them into positive addictions to better who they are. I want to be a better me. I want to be a better me. So after just seeing how it really was in the big world out there and what I had to step into, after not knowing who I was for most of my life at 33 years old, like, hey, I'm a drug addict with nothing.
Yeah.
And, this and that. I'm like, nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a fuck. I did that.
Yeah.
And it's time for me to get out of it. So searching for a purpose. I came home and my ex was like, I'm sorry. So on July 4th, 2016, I walked into this place called Husky House, which is an amazing rescue that I support. I love everything about them. They're a little bit different than what I do, but she does her best. And the dogs that she rescues are in come from horrible situations like myself. And she's also somebody who inspired me to do what I do today. July 4th, 2016, instead of going to a 4th of July party, I went to go work at the rescue. And a couple of days before that, I was asked if I could foster a 2-month-old German Shepherd that was terminally ill, that they gave 6 months to live.
Little baby.
And little baby, honey. And I said, I can't. I said, if I lose this dog, I'm going to lose my life. I'm just starting to understand what life is without a drug. Like I've been on drugs for 13 years.
Yeah.
Like for me to go now and be a man of like that, this dog is going to count on me. Like if I lose this dog, I'm going to lose myself. I don't know who I am. July 4th, I walked in there and I seen that little dog.
Yep.
And I said, I'm going to give that dog the best 4 months of its life.
Yeah.
So I took her home, and that dog accepted me for who I was.
Yeah.
That dog wanted to love me. She opened up my heart. She made me feel like a man. She made me feel like a dad. Like I'm not a father.
Yeah.
I never had this feeling and it's so crazy because they don't talk.
Yeah.
She was a puppy.
Yeah.
She's sitting there, and there was one time, and I have a picture of it because I just took that moment picture. Like you ever stuck in a moment? Mm-hmm. Like I'm bawling, crying, and she's just in my arms, and I looked at her, I was like, you can't go yet. You can't go. please. Like she was literally, so she was born with subaortic stenosis,
Okay.
which is a heart condition. One of the worst cases that the specialists have ever seen. They said 6 months, there's no way that this dog's gonna live, right? So me knowing that, and then this dog is like basically trembling on the floor, like, you know, like, and I'm like, no, you can't go. And she didn't go. And every day I would come home and I would just, that became my purpose. I'm living for this dog. Little did I know I was just opening up my heart and a whole new world. That I was just like continuing to like run home because she made me feel okay.
And you were accountable.
Correct.
For that dog, emotionally accountable. Like,
she accepted me for who I was. She didn't know where I've been.
Yeah.
So it's like I couldn't get enough of her.
That's awesome.
Right? Negative addictions into positive addictions, a broken heart into a full heart. She made me feel like something. So I came home one weekend and I was, you know, I got home and my ex was like, you know, there's this woman who rescues goats that's looking for a carpenter. Like, why don't you go up there and build on the weekends? And I was like, message her. So she messaged this woman, Leanne, from Goats of Anarchy. And she's like, hey, you know, Mike is a creative builder. He wants to come and help you. Like, whatever you need done, he's you know, newly in recovery and he's looking for, you know, to find a new way of life. Like, he's just looking for outlets. And she was like, hey, come up, you know, gave the address. And the next weekend we went up. And, you know, when I met her, I instantly felt at home. You know, we took a walk in the woods and she was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I heard a little bit about your story and your struggles. And I understand you and you can consider this place a second home. What you're going to need to realize is that these animals are not going to judge you. And I already had that experience with that dog. Mm-hmm. So like now it's like, all right, cool. So I'm accepted by a dog and now that's my week. And then on the weekends, instead of going to get fucked up and ruin my whole life, maybe I could just go and help a life in need.
Yeah.
So I started to volunteer with Goats of Anarchy and then I actually became an employee. She you know, I built her whole sanctuary. But throughout that time, you know, I just started to see the difference between sanctuary and shelter, right?
Okay.
The shelter system is broken. The people in the shelter system suck.
Yeah.
Sanctuaries are built with love, and the people that are around them want to do this to better and help these animals. They're not doing it because they have to do it. Most of them are volunteer-based, but they are voluntarily giving their heart and their soul to better an animal's life. Well, these are just farm animals. You know what I'm saying? Goats of Anarchy is a special needs goat rescue.
Okay.
You know, they're running around with fake prosthetic legs and wheelchairs and I'm building all this dope shit and I'm like, wow, this is great. And the people around have never seen it before, so they're like blown away. And every time I go up there, like I built an octa goat, like with a trampoline. The goats used to jump and fight each other with stadium seating. I built a goatsicle. I traced out a motorcycle and I carved it out. I had a painter paint it. You know, I'm hanging swings. And all of a sudden I start to look and I'm like, wow, like, this is amazing. These animals are able to live because of what I'm, like, even though I'm hired, but how come this isn't done anywhere else?
Yeah, they're
like,
having fun.
I'm providing them with a different life. So then, you know, I got really attached to animals and I just started to see, like, you know, the shelter system and stuff like that. And being around the sanctuary really opened me up. So I started to, like, put some effort into rescuing animals. And one time I was working at a job and I got a phone call about some dogs that were in the backyard and it was full of garbage. And, you know, I went over there and, you know, I had no clue what the fuck I was doing. All I knew is that I wasn't, you know, this is what I'm here for. You know, I don't give a fuck what neighborhood it is in. You know, so I walk up the driveway and I see like this backyard full of garbage and these two little puppies running around and somebody comes out the back and he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, whose dogs are these? He's like, those are the landlords. He'll be back in an hour. I said, all right. I'm Mike from the ASPCA, and tell him if these dogs aren't out of here, we're taking them. And he's like, all right, he'll be back. And then like underneath the steps, like 4 or 5 more dogs came out, like little puppies. I was like, fuck this. I emptied a milk crate, I put all the puppies in it, and I brought them to my job site. So I put them in the kitchen, and I put a board up, and they're running around, and I'm like, wow. But by the end of the day, I had placed all of those dogs in homes. I was like, this is beautiful. Pits.
They were pits. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, this is beautiful, right? So I went home and I said to my ex, I said, let's start a rescue. And she's like, let's go. She loved it. So we named the rescue No More Pain Rescue.
Okay.
Okay. Because like once I touch these animals, there's no more pain. I'll sit through the pain to give you the life that you deserve.
Yeah.
You got no voice. You can't ask for nothing. I'm going to give you what you deserve, right? Because these animals made me feel like I was just okay.
Yeah.
And when I started to feel like I was okay, it just started to open up my eyes and started to open up my heart and made me realize like, all right, cool, I could do this. These animals are accepting me for who I am. They're not going to question where I've been. And it's a different life. And I think that I can get into this, right?
Love that, dude.
They're also the most loyal fucking anything.
Correct.
Who was it that was on the podcast recently that says, what dog is backwards God?
Yeah.
Right?
Ironically, the guy who I spoke with yesterday sent that to Frank late at night. He says,
really?
ask
Yeah.
Mike if he knows what God spelled back, or dog spelled backwards is.
Yeah.
So when I started to rescue my ex, when we started to rescue, we started to, just try to help, just like most people in rescue.
Do you still have that same rescue? Same one, same name, same everything?
You're going to hear it.
Nice. Let's go.
So, December 22nd, 23rd, 2016, we get a phone call about an abandoned pit bull that's locked in an attic, that if we don't go get it, that they're going to call the ASPCA. And the real estate agent kind of gave me a guilt trip.
Locked
Like,
in
it's a
an
little
attic.
puppy. A little puppy. He's in the attic. He's this white dog, whatever. I said, okay. Give me the address. So couple of things that opened up my mind was that, when I tell people what I do, right? Women love it. They adore it. They they're just proud to know that there's somebody out there doing it. And 9 out of 10 men will tell me, yo, call me. I want to come. But I got your back. I'll come into anywhere with you, bro. I'm coming. So I had somebody who just come home from prison, tough guy,
Yeah.
said he was coming. I called him. I was like, yo, I don't know what the fuck this is, bro, but I want to go. Can you come with me? And his girlfriend wouldn't let him out. This big tough guy, his girlfriend won't let him out to go rescue a dog. So right there, I'm fresh.
Yeah.
I don't know people. I have no connections. I just know guys who say that they're tough guys. And he was a tough guy. I'm not going to lie. He's a tough guy.
Yeah.
But actions speak louder than words. So here I am driving into the Bronx with this little girl from Jersey, never been in a fist fight, sweet girl. I'm teaching her how to open up knives, telling her they come near you, put your back against the car, you start stabbing everybody, baseball bats, this and that, right? So now, we're on our way. Her mom's calling, and I love her mom, and she's like, "What are you just doing, you maniacs?" And she's like, "We're going to rescue a dog." Mike showed me how to open up knives, and she's like, "Where?" And we're in the Bronx, and she's like, "No, I'm gonna call the cops." And I'm like, "Don't call the cops. We don't call cops. Are you crazy?" So I get sent to the wrong address. So in the Bronx, there's roads and streets and avenues, right? So I went to the wrong one. I go down a dead end to a strip club that's closed down. So I call this person, I'm like, "Where the fuck are you, bro?" He's like, "What do you mean I'm here?" I'm like, "What are you trying to set me up?" He's like, "Where were you?" And I was like, whatever it was, 131 Avenue.
Yeah.
He's like, "No, it's 131 Street." So I'm like, all right, here we go. I go to 131st Street, and he's there. He's like, "Here's the house. Just knock downstairs and they'll let you up." And he left. I said, "You got to go." I knock on the door opens, and it's a red party.
Not familiar.
Okay.
Explain.
So there's red and blue,
Oh.
Crips and Bloods.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All red. Very dark. Okay. White guy, white girl. I didn't let her come to the door. She stood at the car with a baseball bat. But, I knock on the door, and they're like, "Yo," I'm like, "Listen, I'm here for the dog." And they're like, "What? I'm like, "There's a dog here?" And then finally the kid that was there, lived there, was like, yeah, he's upstairs. On the side of the house was this metal staircase that went up to the second floor. And I was like, "Bro, I ain't going up there alone. you're gonna come and get me into the apartment, and then I'll do what I have to do. But I don't know what's behind that door, bro. I wasn't born yesterday.
Yeah.
You're gonna come. You're gonna go down with me. He let me in. The dog was locked in an attic, right? So all you heard was like nails.
Yeah.
These kids didn't even know what the dog looked like. So I was told that it was a puppy. I'm thinking I'm here to pick up this little white pit bull puppy.
Yeah.
So I kicked the attic door open, and this dog comes charging down. And again, I'm not experienced like I am now. There's an approach, you know. These dogs are in fear. Like, so what I did was I stood my ground. My energy was right. And I realized that like 40 minutes of trying to like get this dog to understand that I'm not here to hurt it, that I'm here to rescue it and help it. You know, like there was just moments that I was just like questioning myself and like scared and nervous. And like, if this dog gets me, like, what the fuck am I going to do? And 45 minutes later, make a long story short, I got the slip lead over her, brought her downstairs, put her into the truck. Now we had like this 90-pound woman that volunteered to like foster the dog, right? Now I'm a man's man. When it comes to women, I'll always protect a woman. I'm not going to go dump a dog at this 90-pound woman's house because I want to be a hero. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's the wrong thing to do.
Right.
So the dog was showing me some signs of being uncomfortable. You know, like those low growls, like, like you look at it. So I told her, I said, yo, we can't bring this dog up there. We got to bring it home. So at the time, I signed a BSL law, right? Breed restriction. I wasn't allowed to have pit bulls in my community, but I put her in my garage. And it lasted up until like the beginning of June. I had her out of her kennel for the day. I used to do 1 day in and 1 day out because her daytime became my nighttime and my nighttime became her daytime.
Got it.
So like nobody could see her. Nobody even knew what this dog was. But there was a worker that put up an extension ladder behind my house, and she heard it, and she was at the door. So the box actually reached the office. And somebody else, a little rat in the neighborhood with nothing better to do himself, retired loser, called up corporate and told them that I had a vicious pit bull. Not only a pit bull, but it was vicious.
Okay.
So I'm on a roof, and I get a phone call that I have to come into the office. So I fly there, and they're like, you know, like, we can't do anything for you, Mike. Like, we're proud of you for what you're doing, but this dog is not allowed here. Somebody called corporate on you. You have to either, you know, get rid of the dog or you're going to be evicted. And I said, just give me a little bit of time. The next day, or like a couple of days after, I got a phone call from a childhood friend, Taryn. And Taryn was looking to have some work repaired that a contractor messed up on her sister-in-law's house. And I was like, yeah, I could take care of it for you, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, and by the way, Craig owns a piece of property in Tottenville. And, you know, the previous rescue walked away from it. They said they couldn't afford it. If you ever want to start something, you know, he'll help you. And I'm like, when can I meet him? And she's like, whenever you want. I said, can I meet him tomorrow? So I met Craig Fine the next day, complete strangers to each other. And he was like, look, he's like, I love everything about rescue. He's like, I can't do what you do, but I could help you. I could give you this room and this yard. You know, do whatever you want to do with it.
Beautiful.
Right? Crazy. I'm an alcoholic. I'm in recovery.
Yeah.
Right? Now at the time, so whatever time I had, I was still fresh, right? Because it takes a long time to rebuild everything that we destroyed. So the first thing is acceptance, and then building your everyday life, not to resort to drugs, to resort to different things. So I was super fresh. I was a hothead. I was still ready to kill everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, you know, I took an empty room in the back of a bar and built my safe haven. So for the first year, I used to walk through a bar to get to my place, right?
Yeah.
So that day that Craig offered that to me, I looked him in the eyes and I said, with tears in my eyes, I said, thank you, and I promise that you will not regret this. And he says, I don't have a doubt about it.
Yeah.
So started building. You know, I got burnt down. Somebody threw a cocktail on me. You know, I don't know. When I got there, the fire marshals the next morning, they wanted to do investigations and, you know, pull cameras and stuff like that. And I looked at them, I was like, you know, to be honest with you, I don't want to know who did this. Because if you did this to me, you tried to kill my animals, I don't give a fuck about who you are. I don't give a fuck about who's in your house. I'm gonna come. I'm a contractor. I got pieces of plywood. I got nail guns. I'm gonna nail your whole house. I'm plywood in your whole house, and I'm gonna cocktail your house. And I'll go sit in fucking jail with a smile on my face. I wasn't raised to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you got a problem with me, come and see me.
Yeah.
Come and see me. I left my place that night. I left my place on camera. It was like 1:20 something. My place was engulfed in flames at 1:41. They knew I wasn't there. So whoever did it, if they're listening to this, you should be thankful that I don't know who you are. But and same thing is like, you know, I can't live the life that I used to live, which was resorting to violence and hurting people, right? But if I have to, I'll hurt you. You hurt me or my family or somebody that I love, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I won't regret it. Because you know what? I'm a good man today. And sometimes you just have to remind people that just because I'm a good man doesn't mean that I'm going to be spit on. You're not going to disrespect me.
There's a dog in you.
Yeah, there's a dog in me.
Yeah.
And I give everybody the utmost respect until you disrespect me.
Yeah.
And then you're going to know what time it is.
Yeah.
Whether it's physical, verbal, cutting you out of my life, like every action has a reaction. My reactions nowadays are a little different. You know, I'm a man of a community. I'm a man that, you know, like, I have a thing for children and animals. And the reason why I gravitate towards that is because I was a broken boy.
Yeah.
And I was a broken boy because of words.
Right.
So when I talk to these kids, they feel it. You know, like, I look these kids in the eyes and they're broken, and I'm like, you know, you feel this way because of what? My dad's not around. So what you need to do is you need to stop that, and you need to start a new generation, and you need to become the father that you don't have.
Yeah.
The father that you want, the father that you're in pain because you don't have something, then fucking create it for your future. Become the best father. And I say that to everybody. Most of the time we hate who we are during certain times, and like, I hated who I was, so I changed who I was and I become who I am, but it took a lot of work. So these kids that aren't being shown the right way, because most people are afraid of the way they speak to children, like, these kids need to hear the truth behind it. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. This is not a fairy tale book, bro.
Yeah.
Like, life is life.
Break
like,
the cycle.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's just that I deal with, you know, I deal with a lot of kids that come from places that I don't come from. Mm-hmm. I wasn't supposed to be who I was. You know what I'm saying? But I become that person.
Yeah, that's what I would argue against that, man. I think you are exactly who you were meant to be, brother.
But I wasn't raised in the projects. I wasn't raised without a father.
Sure.
But I was still a kid that was suffering in silence.
Yeah.
So, like, I made the change and I become the man that I wanted to become. I'm not a father. But if I was a father, I'd be the best fucking father that I could be.
Yeah.
You know? I become the best man that I can. So today, what I could tell you is that after 8 years of sacrificing my entire life, every single dollar that I make, I'm on a self-funded mission called Pitbulls and Addicts.
Yeah.
So when me and my ex parted ways, it was just like, because it was nothing but acceptance, and like, we respected each other. But, you know, I didn't feel like I was able to grow by looking at somebody that I didn't hate her. You know what I'm saying? There's no hate. But I still needed to elevate, and I still needed to become something, and to continue to look at somebody that I fucked up. Like, I did a lot of damage to her. And now I'm sober and I'm trying to do better, and things like, we're just growing apart, because all I'm doing is I'm focused on building something that's going to keep me sober, keep my peace and serenity within. It was a safe haven for me. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't realize what I was doing, but, you know, at the end of the day, when we parted ways, there's no hate. You know, she's a friend of mine. Mm-hmm. She's somebody who today I could call. Like, she's about to have a baby, and I'm like, hey, what can I buy for your kid?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, her family accepted me for who I was. You know, like, and I'm just thankful for that, because I wasn't a good man. I was abusive with my mouth because I hated myself. So the fire that was in me of hate and self-hate came out in every single which way. And I say it all the time, like, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
There's a reason why people are acting that way. And I understand this, so I needed to change my ways. And I had to let it go. And I was like, at that point, I was like, what are you going to do? And I said, okay, we're going to she could have no more pain rescue. And I'm just going to go ahead and show the world that Pitbulls and Addicts are two misunderstood breeds. And I took all of I had to accept this. And it's so hard to accept things that you don't want to accept. Right?
Absolutely.
How is this happening now? Why didn't you leave me when I was fucked up? But at the end of the day, I still didn't know who I was. I was still a broken boy. I was just like lost. I was nothing. I was just an empty soul. I was a sober soul, but I was empty. You know what I'm saying? I didn't love myself. I wasn't in the gym. The reason why I walked into the gym is because I just needed something, man. I needed a place where I could feel accepted beside what I had built. So like I started to like put personal work in. And what I could tell you is that you are who you attract. So I used to attract all these fucking deadbeats and all these fucking losers. And you know what? It was cool. I felt like one of them. Like, you can't come near me now.
Yeah.
My energy keeps those motherfuckers away from me. Like, I won't accept you.
Yeah.
Like, actions speak louder than words. You could promise me the world. If you don't deliver me shit, I'll never respect you.
Yeah.
You know, I have a friend that his marriage was, the whole marriage, he was not an addict. His wife was an alcoholic. And she would get fucked up, and then he would go and rescue her wherever she was. And that's what their whole marriage was. And like he was like her superhero, right? Always saved the day, always saved the day. And then when she got sober, that's when their marriage went to shit because that's what she was in love with.
Yes.
She was in love with the guy that came and saved her and rescued her. And that guy wasn't there anymore because she didn't have to. And they had to go their own separate ways. And he was always like, why didn't this happen whenever, fucking she was going out and getting fucked up and all this? And that's just sometimes the way that God plays it out.
Yeah, I just truly believe that. I believe that, she wasn't an addict, and I think that she understood my struggles, but I never was open about. She didn't know what was going on.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't come forth about who I was and where I come from until I really like studied myself when I was sober. Like I had to step back and like look back at my whole life and remember things that I didn't want to remember and accept the fact that like, hey, here I am today. Like, what are we gonna do?
Probably, right?
All shame.
A lot of trauma, a lot of shame.
Embarrassment.
For sure.
Like we self-sabotage and self-hate and we just turn to things that we shouldn't be turning to. And it's like after all of these years and this and that. But at the end of the day, like, I could tell you that I honor and I respect her today because at my lowest,
She's
still by my side.
Yeah.
And I was talking with Frank on the way here and we were just talking about life and, we are both heavily in love with our fathers. Like I have my father right here.
That's dope, man.
Yeah, so
that's a good tat too. A lot of times when people get a face on them, it doesn't come out looking good. I've seen some terrible ones.
Yeah. So, being raised by men and changing my ways and having my father in my life early in sobriety was huge. But, when my father took his turn, it just it became a moment where I had to be the son that he needed.
Yeah.
And I told my father that I was ready and willing to do whatever it took to change my life. And that man stood beside me through my lowest, and now I'm a sober man and my father gets sick. And, when I first got sober, we had about 2 years and it was 2 beautiful years. I do things today that remind me of my father because I still, as crazy as it sounds, I don't think that my father's dead. Like, I just feel like he's just not here, but he's in me.
Yeah.
And, coming from like a family of like warriors. Like I said, my grandfather's a Bronze Star general. My father was a veteran and a high rank, great detective and a man of the community. And, we come from men, and we come from men and women that serve and want to help everybody. And, like for all those years that I wasted all those opportunities, I just feel like my father never left me. And accepting the fact that he's gone is extremely difficult, but knowing that he died knowing that his son had changed his life and is now putting his life on the line to help other people. My father would come home after I would hit the news, and then my father would come home from the bank and be calling me, and he's crying on the phone. And I'm like, what are you crying about? He's like, Michael, I just walked in and all of the tellers are hugging me and they're praising you, and I'm so proud of you. And I'm just like, thank God that you changed your life around. And this is like all shit that I just never forget what this meant to me. You know what I'm saying? Because you live in so much regret when you get sober, and it's like, some parents will never forgive their children. Yeah. Some spouses will never forgive their loved one. Some children will never forgive their parents. Some parents will never forgive their children. Some friends will walk away and slam that door and not give you an opportunity. And it's like, I didn't do a lot of shit that most addicts do because I wasn't raised to be this man, So when my father took his turn, I stood beside my father for 18 months. And I watched my hero just totally, decompose into this weak, frail man.
Yeah.
And he, all he was concerned about was us. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how is this man suffering? And he's worried about me.
That's the job, brother.
Correct.
That's the job.
So, I stood beside my father for 18 months. And when I lost my father, man, I lost a part of me. And I feel some of that with it doesn't matter about how old you are as a man to me. It's like, what type of man are you? So when I look at my friends that are fathers and real good father figures, I'm the type of person to let them know you're fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I do that is because a lot of men may not feel like they're doing a good job, right? Because nowadays social media has ruined so much of life, where people are, they're just existing and they're living their lives through social media, and they're forgetting about what life is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So when you have fathers that are going out of their ways to raise children, like Frankie Boy,
yeah,
I tell them, you are the father that child needs.
Yeah.
You are fucking awesome. Don't you ever fucking change. Don't you ever go back to your old ways, because if you do, where is this kid gonna end up? Mm-hmm. We're all gonna fucking die, Frank. We're all gonna die, Joey, Rob.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
There's facts and there's things that we have to remember. And what we have to remember is that we leave behind a legacy. That's and right. What legacy do you want to leave behind? The fact that my father got sober and then he gave up on life, he became a junkie, and I found my father dead in the bathroom?
Right.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
So when I see men that have changed their lives, that come from something or come from nothing, but they're putting effort into being a better man. And to me, it's like, I had a father who took pride in what he did. And even though I was suffering in silence and my father had no clue what was going on, my father was the one who took me to every single hockey game. We traveled on the weekend. He was my biggest supporter to the day that he died.
Yeah.
And when you understand that, and you understand the circle of life is that we come and we go.
Yeah.
But when you go, how do you want to be remembered? Because there's the most impactful statement that I've ever heard was, you are 3 generations away from being forgotten about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what made me realize I can't change everything, but I could definitely change a couple of generations.
Yeah.
And with that is where I could leave a legacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the legacy is that Pitbulls and Addicts are 2 misunderstood breeds. Right? Why is that my legacy? It's because I sacrificed my entire life to go ahead and fight that fight. It's a fight every day. You hear Pitbulls and Addicts. What the fuck is that? But that's a man who was an addict that was rescued and challenged by a pit bull to change his way because nobody would help that pit bull. He started building this sanctuary. And now he goes off, and I took all of that energy building and creating something. And now I found that there's comfort in helping children that need a second chance or children that just need a word. Like, I understand what you're going through, but here's the way around it.
Yeah.
Here's the good word. Here's what you have to do, right? And these kids, they make me feel like I'm worth something.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful, man. Well, look, I'd like to just rewind your clock back to that stoop, 0 to hero.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
Is that I said it, and the same effort that I put into being a drug addict, I just put into becoming a better person.
And Pops got to see it.
He got to see it.
And he got to
He
witness
died
it.
happy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And, you know, like, I still struggle with it every day. Like, there's times that, like, you know, something will pop up, or like, you know, like, I'm not somebody who says, like, I pick up my phone to call my dad, but there's times that I wish I could pick up the phone. But I could tell you that, you know, obviously you see I'm covered in tattoos, and some tattoos are meaningful and some of them are not. I fully accepted the fact that I no longer have a father in my real life, right? Real life, my day, I don't have a dad. But I said the day that my father had passed away is that as a boy, I always had a father to protect me, no matter what I needed.
Yeah.
Even at my lowest, my father was always there for me. He wasn't an enabler. My father was a man.
Yeah.
Right? Didn't enable me, but my father always supported me. The day that I seen my father in that casket, I said to myself, it's time to become a man. Every boy has a dad. Most men don't.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time. When do you become a man? And it's when you have to stand on your own 2 feet and make it happen.
Yeah.
But I put this on the day I put this on my arm, and I'm able to see my dad every day, is the day that I finally accepted the fact that I got to do this alone. But I don't have to do it alone because he's still within me. I literally talk to myself. I talk to my dad.
Yeah.
I look for signs. I know he's with me. You know, like one time I got out of the shower. My mirrors were clean, right? I had just got my mirror, my bathroom cleaned, right? So I know for a fact that my mirror was clean.
Yeah.
And it was a difficult period of my life, you know, like ups and downs and a lot of losses, a lot of heartbreak, and a lot of fucked up emotions, you know? And I go in the shower, I come out of the shower, and I'm doing something, and I look up in the top left corner, there's a handprint on my mirror. I'm like, yo, that's my fucking dad. That's a smaller hand than, like, I got a big hand.
Yeah.
And I put it up to it, and what do you know? It was my father's hand.
Nice.
So there's always signs, and you know, like, I'm spiritually connected. You know, like, I feel like there's, you know, like, I'm not super religious. I just, you know, I met somebody who opened up a world of religion, and I started to follow it. And even though, like, with my brain and the way that I operate in my everyday life, it's like sometimes reading to me is not, it doesn't do it for me. Like, I get lost, my brain shuts down, I forget. You know, like, I never read in school, like, I never put the effort into it. So, like, reading to me, you know, reading the Bible, like, I tried to read the Bible and tried to get connected. It wasn't working. But, you know, I'm searching for something, you know, like, and a lot of people say in sobriety, it's always about a higher power. And I never understood that because I didn't go to the rooms, right? The rooms, some rooms are good and some rooms are bad. And the rooms that I was going to, I just couldn't find myself in it. I don't like the fact that, you know, people go there and it's always the same story. You know, I ruined my life. I live in my grandmother's basement and I work at McDonald's. Okay, cool. How are you inspiring me, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying? And the sob stories, and listen, a drug addict's a drug addict. We ruin everything and everyone around us. We just totally don't give a fuck about. All we give a fuck about is getting high. It's every addict. That's it, right? So in those rooms, it's cool to go there early in sobriety, so you see that it's possible. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like, coming from where I come from, people that talk shit about one another are not trustworthy. And when I walked out of that meeting and I would hear people talking about the next person, I kind of said, like, I can't be here. So that's why I started to find other things. So I was never in a room where, like, they practiced religion and this and that. So I was like, I did all of this on my own. So when I met somebody who was super religious, I started to, like, like I started to listen with her, and I started to like, I went to church and I felt at home. Like I started to like listen to music, and that's where I really feel like I'm connected to my higher powers, just to listening to music. And like I'm driving and I'm singing like trust in God, like,
Yeah.
and it's like, and I feel okay, like, what I'm saying, like no matter what's going on in my life, I feel okay. And then somebody told me that there's a difference between like listening and speaking. So when you listen to something, you gain like this feeling inside of you, and you like you believe in things, and so on and so forth, right? But then they said when you speak it, you build your faith. So that's when I started to like open up, and I started to pray, and I started to be super thankful for what I have and be grateful. And to be honest with you, like like I grew up in a Catholic family, but if you read my shirt, it says euthanize pedophiles.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So early in my life, when the priests started to get exposed for being pedophiles, like my father was totally against that. Then I realized that the Catholic Church was extorting us.
Yeah.
Like if we didn't show up to church, we had to bring an envelope of cash. You know what I'm saying? Like, and just the way that I looked at it was like, how could a man of God touch children and God be okay with this, right? And I guess now that I could actually sit down and think about it from all different perspectives, right? The reason why I hated that so much was because even though I wasn't touched by a man, I was mentally abused by a man.
Yeah.
So you don't gotta touch me to ruin my fucking life. Your words ruin my fucking life. These children are now fucking ruined by a pedophile. I think that pedophile should be brought to the center of the fucking town, hung upside down on a noose, and every child in the fucking town should go beat them with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
And then we should light them on fire and kick them.
Yeah.
You fucking ruined them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm strong enough that I was able to, and again, I wasn't strong. I had no choice to accept the fact that I need to change my life. There's a lot of people that don't accept this that are fucking dead today.
Yeah.
There are children that are molested by their parents, their cousins, their uncles. You know what I'm saying? And then you got innocent people that did what should be done. They killed that motherfucker that are now sitting in jail for the rest of their life because they killed the motherfucker that basically killed a walking dead kid because that kid is dead inside.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that.
And the road back is...
It's horrible.
It's terrible.
That child will never be the same again. And you know what? The trauma that they're going to live through, they're going to definitely become a drug addict somehow, some way. Right? Now, drugs aren't just the drugs that are going to kill you. You could be addicted to food. Right? You could be addicted to porn.
Yeah.
You could be addicted to cutting. Right? So people say drug addicts. That's cool. Yeah, we use drugs. But what about the people that aren't using drugs? Like, what about the people that are sitting there cutting their wrist?
Yeah.
What about the people that are just doing things that they don't want to be doing, but they don't know no better because they don't feel worthy of anything?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It just never, to me, as I look back on it, the reason why I started to like walk away from that and not feel welcome in that is because it all comes back to the pedophiles. You know what I'm saying? Like, euthanize them.
Yeah, I think pedophiles and rapists are the two worst people.
Correct.
They're way worse.
They should be eliminated.
Yeah, way worse than murderers. I
Correct.
think that's the... and I won't say that people can't come back from it, but the journey back is fucking like I was molested when I was 4. And the journey back, mine wasn't as bad as other people. And my fiance asked me when I finally told her, because it's not something I ever really talk about.
Correct.
And she said, do you hate the person for doing it? And I said, no. I said, I don't. I said, because I don't know what they were going through. Like it was a 12-year-old. I was 4. Who's to say his dad or his uncle wasn't fucking raping him?
To
right?
me, that's a different, and I understand that.
And
you were, if it was a man,
Yeah.
you would feel different.
It would probably so.
It would.
I'd probably be looking for him still
Correct.
to this day.
If it was
Right?
a grown man that did
Yeah.
it to you, you would feel completely different.
Probably so.
It's only 8 years old.
Yeah.
Like I understand that, and I feel your pain, and I'm proud of you for opening up about it, because some people may not think that was a type of that wasn't anything, because it was.
When I told my mom about it, I didn't know how to say something, and I forgave you already, Mother. But I mentioned it to her, and I was like, Mom, if this happens, what happens? And she said, well, you go to hell because you're gay, right? And so at 4 years old, I thought, shit, I did something wrong.
Yeah.
and now I'm going to hell because that's not what God wants you to be, right? And so that was something like I had pushed that in the back of my memory for years.
Yeah.
And I just now recently talked about it on here, right? And it's not, if it would have been an adult or somebody that consistently,
Would have been
I
different.
could see that
Would have been different for you.
I always tell anybody that if you ever went through that, you definitely need to go to therapy.
Yeah. You
should go to counseling. It's a long road back.
Yeah.
And, some people unfortunately don't make it back.
Correct.
Because they just.
And I'm just super thankful that I was able to, like I said, my drug addiction, there's no excuse for it. My life, there's no excuse for it. Acceptance is key. And just, there comes a point in your life where you just have to look at yourself and say, who am I and where do I want to go?
How you live.
Because as we get older, the child, like I said, as a child, like I turned to the wrong things, which was like violence and self-hate and, hurt people. And then as an adult, it's like you're resorting to places and you're not really living a life. You're just existing in pain. And it's like, do you want to go down like this, man? Like, life is beautiful. Life is great. But at the end of the day, I just think that like when you're in love with yourself and you love life and you surround yourself with people that, like truly want the best of you, you become the best version of yourself. And it doesn't matter about where you've been, but trauma will always be within that person. And that's why you see like some people just don't know, like me, like I don't know how to talk, right? Which is crazy because like people are like, yo, you're so inspirational. I'm like, when I'm with the right people, I talk. But coming from such like, and it wasn't a sheltered life, but I was sheltered. You know what I'm saying? I never spoke about anything.
Yeah.
So like when it comes to me being like open about rescue and what I'm against the rescue community and the reasons why, I have no problem with it. Like this is shit that I learned. I grew through it and I become something in it, right? So it's just experience. I speak from experience. I don't speak about what I see on social media. I live this shit and I'm gonna speak this shit. But when it comes to like, opening up and just like speaking to people or like maybe understand, like people don't understand like why everybody always says like, Mike, you're difficult to talk to. And I'm like, why? Because I'm a no bullshit type of guy? You want me to sit here and bullshit you and tell you like, it's okay to talk to me like that?
Nah.
It's like, listen, at the end of the day, everybody has beliefs. We all believe in something. Everybody has opinions and thoughts. And, we should be accepting of each other for who you are and how you feel about things. And if we don't agree on something, it's okay. But together we could get through it. You know what I'm saying? I have a problem speaking. I don't know how to speak.
Got me fooled, brother.
Yeah.
You're doing
But it's, again,
good.
it's like, like I lost a lot of good things in my life because I just don't know how to speak. And naturally, I'm used to running. So I have no problem running away from something and not having something in my life. I didn't have shit in my life for most of my life.
Yeah.
Most of my life, I didn't have what I wanted. Everybody wants that perfect life. I never had it. I'm never going to have a fucking perfect life. I don't want a perfect life no more. I want to become the best motherfucker that I am. I want to touch as many lives as I can. And when I die, I know that when I get up to those pearly gates that I'm going to have no regrets. I lived my whole life in regret. Fuck that. I'm getting up there and I'm proud of who I am. I'm thankful that I got the strength to become who I become. My life today is beautiful. I'm building an animal sanctuary. I'm on a worldwide mission that people, a lot of people understand it. They're starting to understand it. The more and more that I put out there, the more and more that I put out there is I treat my animals as if I would treat my children, and in return, I have good animals.
Yeah.
Right. I treat my kids that come into my home. It's called Freedom Home. Right. Everything about me is always a home.
Yeah.
Right. So like I'm not a father, but I built a home.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between a house and a home. A house is a place where people just go to and sleep and the walls are empty. There's no love. I was raised in a home where it was full of love. So I named my place Freedom Home because I'm now free and this is our home, Freedom Home. The results that I get are because my animals don't live in fear. The results that I get because these kids aren't ashamed of the shit that they've been through to open up and speak to me because I want them to. I want them to know that you're not alone. I understand you. I could help you get through this. But if you don't speak to me, I can't.
Yeah.
Right? And some kids won't speak. But then I start to tell them about the reasons why they should, maybe accept it and just move forward because you're 13 years old, 14 years old. I'm 42 and this is where I'm at. So I put my story on the line to change their life. And in return, I'm changing my life. Because when I leave a group of kids, I feel unstoppable. When I leave a group of men, like talking this podcast, I'm leaving here, I'm unstoppable. I feel like I'm worth something. And again, I say it all the time, like children that don't feel that they're worthy live in this self-doubt, and it's really, it's not a good place for them because most of those kids don't make it out because they get so used to just running and running. And as a 42-year-old man, I still run from a lot. But you know what? I'm not a perfect man today, but I am way better than who I was. And every morning that I wake up, my mindset's the same. I'm going to be 1% better today. They could take it or leave it. If people are going to talk about me, I'm going to give them something to talk about.
Well said, brother. Well, man, I'm honored that you came by and came such a long way. And like I said, Frank is our boy here.
Yeah.
And I always extend this to everybody who comes and sits on that chair. You need us for anything, brother.
Yeah.
Like whether it's a kid,
Goes both ways.
whether like we'll come running
Both ways.
and
And that's what it is. Like nowadays, like I've noticed, like, listen, if you walk with me in New York, you'll be like, wow, this kid knows everybody. Everybody loves Mike.
yeah,
It's not how it is.
yeah,
I ask for $1 on Fridays. I ask for $5 on Fridays and $1 on Sundays to support a mission.
yeah,
Where you at? You understand? Like
Yeah.
everybody loves me. Everybody loves me until I need help.
yeah,
So I pick and choose who I stand with. We don't sit no more. We stand tall,
yeah,
And Frank is definitely a man that I stand with, And all of the men that I've met through Frank, I can honestly say I stand with them too. Because Frank knows where I come from. Frank knows what I'm about. And if Frank is going to put me in jeopardy, then Frank's not my friend. Frank
Yeah.
don't care about me.
yeah,
I know that Frank has the best interest in my well-being because we both come from the same place. Maybe a different lifestyle, but we both come from the same place. Trauma, hate, violence, drugs. Frank lost his life. Frank came out of his body and seen himself.
yeah,
I lost my life. I didn't come out of my body, but I fucking see myself.
Yeah.
I look at my picture every day and I'm like, fuck, I was a dead man walking.
Yeah.
He was a dead man flying.
Yeah.
He came back to his body and he changed his ways. Like, and the reason why I stand beside him is because he's a man's fucking man.
100%.
That's it. We both, like I said, we were raised to completely different. I was raised by, narcotics detective in my house and gangsters. Frank, I know you all know his story. He was raised by, who he was raised by.
Yeah.
And to now be 40 years old and come connected and like just understand, like, yo, let's take our past and change the future. Like I sit there and I just talk to his kid and I'm like, yo, listen, kid, like, you understand something, that the happiness is within,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of roads that could follow and that will lead you to the places that me and your dad have been, but that happiness is a straight line right to your heart.
yeah,
Don't you ever come off that road. And if you're coming off that road and you're afraid to go to your father, you could turn to me. There's no reason to be afraid to go to your father, but as we all know, some kids don't want to turn to their parents.
100%.
But you could always turn to me.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And to have and it's not only just Frank's kid, it's all my friends, family kids. Like every kid loves me. And it's because they know that I mean well.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm this big 6 foot, 220 pound guy, tattoos, loud, this and that. But at the end of the day, I was a broken kid.
yeah,
You don't gotta live the life that I live to be half of the person that I am. And I'm not no better than anybody else. But I just put forth the effort every day to be the person that I want to be. I never wanted to be that drug addict. I wanted to be something.
Well, you're changing your legacy.
Correct.
Right.
And I tell people, I always had a problem that people were fearing me for somebody that I wasn't. So as I changed my life around, I don't want nobody to fear me for something that I'm not. I want them to love and respect me for who I am. And
Well
this
said.
is what I am. This is where I come from. And this is what I'm going to do. And when my casket drops, I could tell you that I went all in. I took a negative addiction. I made a positive addiction. I took a broken heart. I fixed myself, and I became the best version of myself. Maybe I may never be the best man that ever walked the planet. It's okay. I'm the best Mike Favor that there will ever walk this earth.
Well, just like that, man. Mike Favor. How do they find you? How do they find you?
So I operate on Instagram. My platform is called Pitbulls and Addicts. My website is pitbullsandaddicts.org. I'm very active on Instagram. I show people, what it is and, how we do it and the reason why we do it. We're here. We're a community. We're a community of people that most of my people are broken. And we feel like we're okay because we are. As long as we have each other and we all understand and help each other, we'll make it out okay. So I'm real. Like I can't stand Facebook. I can't stand all these other things. Like that's a whole job itself. I create my own content. I do everything myself in house because, I've watched organizations pumble because of who doesn't agree with something or this. Like this is my life. This is all I got. I'm all in.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna risk somebody's like soft ass emotions because they don't understand it. To have everything in an uproar. And at the end of the day, the animals suffer from it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what I'm here for.
Yes, sir.
It's Pitbulls and Addicts.
Well, $5 Fridays.
$5 Fridays, support us Sundays.
Everybody fucking...
I'm a nonprofit organization. My nonprofit organization is called Broken Souls Rescue and Recovery. We're based out of Staten Island, New York. And, I've touched lives across the world because people from across the world, they understand that he's a real one.
Well, you are as real as they get, my friend.
I try. Listen, all I do is I accept myself, and I just want to be a better man.
Well, you're doing it, man. And thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
All of the Two Addicts and a Moron world, go load this guy's nonprofit up. Let's help out some animals. Let's do
and if there's anybody out there that's struggling with addiction, you're currently struggling, like if you want to reach out, there is help out there. Like, we have help out here in Texas. We have help in California. We have help in New York. We have men and women that won't even charge you if you're ready and willing to put the work in. There's so many people out there that have been through what you're going through. You're not alone, and it's okay to accept the fact that maybe you do need help. And the first thing that you have to do is just reach out.
Ask for it.
Reach out to somebody and say, "Hey, I need fucking help." And if you can't afford it, we get it. There's somebody out there that could help you change your fucking life. Like I said, I know people that own rehabs. I know people that never been, I'd never been in any type of program because I didn't think it was going to work for me. I was coming with too much trauma. I knew that the only way that I was going to change was changing my ways. Get to work. I'm a working man. You know what I'm saying? Like I work this program because this is all I know. This is all I know. There's way too many people out there that think that they can't change their life around us because they never asked for anything. I didn't accept the fact that I was traumatized and that I needed help until I actually asked for the help, and I was blessed. I was blessed when a dentist said, "I'm going to do your work pro bono." And even with that, I still, nowadays I'm going to go enter another dark phase of my life because now it's all going to come back and I have to get some more work done. But, what I could tell you is that when this happened to me and I was broken, I ran to suicide. And now that I'm a changed man, I'm going to run into the fire and do what I have to do to better myself, to understand that this too could have been prevented if I did what I had to do when I was supposed to do it. So stop putting shit to the back burner and start fucking making it happen.
Let's fucking go.
And that's it.
Well, just like that, man.
brother.
Thank you so much.
Two Addicts and a Moron.
Let's fucking go,
Thank
brother.
you.
Hey, thank you
you, brother.
guys.